There is a shelter that costs $0 to build, takes 20 minutes to construct, and outperforms a $200 commercial tent in every measurable thermal metric. No poles, no fabric, no stakes, no gear to carry, lose, or break. A shelter built entirely from sticks, leaves, and forest debris that military survival instructors teach as the primary emergency. Shelter technique in the most demanding survival training programs on the planet. Zero cost. 20 minutes, warmer than your tent, built from the forest floor beneath your feet. The global camping shelter industry generates over $4 billion in annual revenue. Tents, tarps, bivy sacks, and hammock systems are sold at prices ranging from $50 to $800 with an average replacement cycle of 3 to 5 years. Every product in that market depends on one belief, that a night in the outdoors requires a manufactured shelter carried in from civilization. A construction technique that produces a warmer, more wind-resistant, and more weather-proof shelter for materials available in any forest on Earth does not generate retail revenue, which is exactly why no outdoor gear company has ever promoted it, and no sponsored camping channel has ever made it the centerpiece of their content. This is the story of the A-frame debris shelter, the emergency construction technique documented in the United States Army Survival Manual FM 2176, taught in the SERE program, Survival, Evasion, Resistance, Escape, to Special Forces personnel since the 1950s, tested in Arctic, tropical, and temperate environments across every continent, and kept outside the mainstream camping conversation for as long as the gear industry has had products to sell. Welcome to Forbidden Camping. If this knowledge matters to you, subscribe and hit the bell. This is where we open the vaults the outdoor industry paid to seal forever. Now let me take you back to where this all begins. Humans have been building debris shelters for as long as humans have existed in forested environments. Archaeological evidence of constructed shelters using organic forest materials, branches, bark, leaves, and moss, dates to at least 400,000 years ago at the Terra Amata site near Nice, France, where post holes and compressed debris patterns indicate systematic shelter construction by early human communities. The principle has never changed in 400,000 years. An angled frame covered with insulating organic material traps body heat, blocks wind, and sheds rain. The materials are available in every forest on Earth. The construction requires no tools beyond hands and basic problem-solving ability. The formalization of debris shelter construction as a teachable military skill began in the early 20th century. British military survival training during World War II documented systematic shelter construction techniques for downed aircrew and soldiers operating behind enemy lines in European forests. The training emphasized speed, thermal efficiency, and the use of exclusively local materials. In 1957, the United States Air Force established the SERE program, Survival, Evasion, Resistance, Escape, at Fairchild Air Force Base in Washington State. The program trained military aircrew and special operations personnel in survival skills for scenarios where they would be isolated behind enemy lines without equipment. The A-frame debris shelter became one of the core construction techniques taught in the program because it met every tactical requirement. Fast to build, thermally effective, low visibility, and constructed entirely from available materials. The U.S. Army Survival Manual FM 2176, first published in the 1950s and continuously updated through subsequent editions, documents the A-frame debris shelter with construction, specifications, insulation depth requirements, and thermal performance guidelines. The manual is publicly available. It has been publicly available for decades. The shelter construction technique it describes has been taught to tens of thousands of military personnel. Kochanski, the Canadian bushcraft instructor whose 1987 book Northern Bushcraft is considered one of the foundational texts of modern wilderness skills education, documented debris shelter construction extensively and measured thermal performance in Canadian winter conditions. His field measurements confirmed that a correctly constructed debris shelter maintains interior temperatures 20 to 30 degrees Celsius above exterior temperature using body heat, alone with no fire or external heat source. 20 to 30 degrees warmer than outside, with no fire. No sleeping bag rated to those temperatures, no manufactured insulation from sticks and leaves. A standard 3-season backpacking tent provides approximately 2 to 5 degrees Celsius of temperature elevation above exterior temperature through wind protection and minimal insulation. A debris shelter provides 4 to 10 times that thermal benefit. The tent costs $200 and weighs 2 kilograms in your pack. The debris shelter costs nothing and weighs nothing because it does not exist until you build it from the ground you are standing on. Let me show you exactly why this works. A debris shelter works through 3 thermal mechanisms working together: dead airspace insulation, radiant heat retention, and convective heat blocking. Dead airspace insulation is the same principle behind every manufactured insulation product on Earth. Fiberglass bats, foam panels, down sleeping bags. Still air trapped in small pockets is one of the best thermal insulators available. A debris shelter with 30 centimeters of compressed leaf and forest debris on its exterior surface creates millions of tiny air pockets trapped between the organic material. Those air pockets function identically to the air pockets inside a premium sleeping bag or an insulated jacket. A 2008 study published in the journal Wilderness and Environmental Medicine measured the thermal insulation value of natural debris materials used in shelter construction. Compressed dry leaves at 30 centimeters depth provided an insulation R value of approximately R6 to R9, depending on leaf type and compression. For comparison, a standard 3-season tent fabric provides an R value of effectively 0, and a tent fabric blocks wind, but provides no meaningful insulation. Radiant heat retention works because the debris shelter is built to a body-tight interior dimension. The shelter is not a room. It is a cocoon. The interior space is only slightly larger than your body. Every watt of heat your body generates radiates outward, hits the shelter walls within centimeters, and is reflected and absorbed by the surrounding debris mass. In a tent, your body heat radiates into a large interior air volume and dissipates. In a debris shelter, it has nowhere to go. It stays with you. Convective heat blocking works because the dense debris walls eliminate air movement through the shelter. Wind cannot penetrate 30 centimeters of compressed organic material. A tent fabric, even in still conditions, allows measurable air exchange through seams, vents, and fabric permeability. A debris shelter has no seams and no vents. Air exchange occurs only through the entrance, which is blocked with a debris plug or pack during occupation. The combination of these three mechanisms produces the 20 to 30 degrees Celsius temperature differential that Kochanski measured and that military survival training has confirmed across decades of field use. The global camping shelter market generates over $4 billion annually. The average backpacking tent purchase is between $150 and $400. The replacement cycle is 3 to 5 years. Accessories, footprints, repair kits, seam, sealers, upgraded stakes add recurring revenue throughout the ownership period. A shelter construction technique that requires no purchase, produces superior thermal performance, and can be implemented anywhere in the world. From local materials, does not generate a single dollar of retail revenue. Outdoor gear companies sponsor content creators who review and recommend tents. Those sponsorships fund the YouTube channels, the blogs, and the social media accounts that reach the majority of outdoor enthusiasts. A content creator who teaches free shelter construction does not attract tent company sponsorships. The commercial incentive structure of outdoor media systematically favors purchased solutions over free skills. This is not a conspiracy, it is commercial. Logic operating consistently across an industry that profits from gear dependence rather than skill independence. The result is an outdoor community that can recite the specifications of 12 tent models but cannot build a shelter that outperforms all of them from materials lying on the ground. Here's exactly how to build an A-frame debris shelter. 20 minutes, 0 tools. Step 1. Find your ridgepole. Find a fallen branch or small log approximately 3 meters long and strong enough to support weight without breaking. This is the spine of your shelter. Prop one end on a stump, rock, or low tree fork at approximately waist height. The other end rests on the ground. This creates the A-frame angle. The high end is your entrance. The low end is the foot of your sleeping area. Step 2. Build the ribbing. Lean shorter branches along both sides of the ridgepole at approximately 45-degree angles, spaced 10 to 15 centimeters apart. These ribs create the framework that supports the insulation layer. The ribs should extend from the ridgepole to the ground on both sides, creating a triangular cross-section just wide enough for your body to lie inside without touching the walls. Step 3. Add cross-layering. Lay smaller sticks and brush horizontally across the ribs to create a lattice that prevents insulation material from falling through the gaps between ribs. This lattice does not need to be dense, just enough to support the weight of compressed leaves and debris. Step 4. Pile the insulation. This is the most important step. Pile leaves, forest debris, pine needles, ferns, moss, bark strips, and any available dry organic material onto the framework to a depth of at least 30 centimeters on all sides, including the top. 30 centimeters is the minimum for effective insulation. 40 to 50 centimeters is better. More insulation means more warmth. This is the step that most beginners underestimate. You need approximately 10 to 15 large armloads of debris for adequate coverage. It should look like a large pile of leaves with no visible framework beneath. Step 5. Create your bed. Fill the interior floor with a thick layer of dry leaves, pine needles, or dry grass to a depth of at least 15 centimeters. This ground insulation is critical. The ground conducts heat away from your body 40 times faster than still air. Without ground insulation, you lose more heat downward through the ground than you lose upward through the shelter walls. Step 6. Build the door. Plug. Collect a large armload of debris or stuff, a bag with leaves, to create a plug that blocks the entrance opening after you crawl inside. Pull the plug into the entrance behind you when you enter for the night. This seals the shelter and prevents convective heat loss through the opening. Size guideline. The interior should be just large enough to lie down with approximately 15 centimeters of clearance on each side and above your chest. Smaller is warmer. A debris shelter is not a tent. Comfort comes from warmth, not space. A body-tight interior retains body heat dramatically more effectively than a spacious one. Time and effort. First build, approximately 30 to 40 minutes as you learn the process. Second build, approximately 20 minutes. With practice, experienced builders construct effective debris shelters in 15 minutes in well-forested environments. When to use this knowledge. Emergency situations where shelter equipment is lost, damaged, or unavailable. Backcountry scenarios where weight and pack space prevent carrying a tent. Survival training to build confidence that you can shelter safely anywhere. There is forest. Practice builds. During day hikes to develop the skill before you need it. The humans who built shelters from forest debris at Terra Amata 400,000 years ago were not practicing bushcraft as a hobby. They were surviving because they understood that the materials around them contained everything they needed. That understanding kept the species alive through ice ages, migrations across continents, and conditions that no commercial tent has ever been tested in. The SERE instructors who teach this shelter to Special Forces personnel today are not teaching a primitive novelty. They are teaching the most reliable shelter construction method ever documented. Reliable because it requires nothing that can be forgotten, broken, or left behind. It requires only the forest and the knowledge of what to do with it. $4 billion in annual camping shelter revenue depends on you believing that a night outdoors requires a manufactured product carried in from civilization. It depends on you associating shelter with purchase rather than construction. It depends on the outdoor industry's most fundamental commercial assumption, that the customer cannot provide for themselves. The sticks are on the ground, the leaves are on the forest floor. The knowledge is here. Subscribe and share this video. Every share reaches a camper who will walk into the woods with more confidence and less weight on their back. Every subscription keeps this channel opening the vaults the outdoor industry thought were sealed forever. The next vault opens soon, and what is inside will change how you look at the water in the stream at your next campsite, and the $15 filter that engineers tested could not believe, and that outperforms every branded filter on the market using nothing but sand, gravel, and a 5-gallon bucket.